An education policy that strips poorly attended remote schools of federal funding, once again in the firing line.
The Central Land Council would like to see an end to the NT government's effective enrolment policy. This sees remote schools funded on attendance rather than on the number of students on the books.
The Territory Government says it won't budge from its planned 2025 repeal.
There's been a report and we've seen that it has to be done in a staged, managed and transitioned way, and that's the plan.
The Education Minister instead looking for a bigger piece of the pie in the next federal school resourcing agreement.
We always advocate for the Northern Territory's fair share and recognition that with your national funding models, you can't just pop on what works in Sydney and Melbourne and Perth in the Northern Territory.
But an incoming federal review will run a microscope over how the Territory allocates federal funding. An early consultation paper from the federal government says we don't have a clear picture of how funding is allocated or spent. Remote educators laying the responsibility for equitable school funding squarely at the Northern Territory government's feet.
They're closer to us. They're able to come out and look. You're not going to get people from federal to come to Little Borroloola just to have a look at what we need. The Northern Territory government can do that, and I would assume it's their job to do that.
The Central Land Council wants greater transparency over the Commonwealth's almost $500 million input into Territory schools.
At the moment, the Northern Territory receives this funding in. There's no accountability, there's no transparency in terms of how this funding is being allocated to the needs of remote communities and remote schools.
A fight for fair where every dollar makes a difference. Oliver Chaseling, ABC News.